There are moments in life when the night feels longer than it should, when silence grows heavy, and the battles you carry seem to whisper that you are alone. You wake with questions that echo louder than answers, and you lie down at night feeling as though the weight of your story has grown beyond your strength. Yet there is a truth quietly unfolding behind the veil of what you see and feel. There is a movement beyond your sight, a sacred stirring that does not depend upon your understanding or your ability to hold everything together. Even now, in the places where you feel most fragile, there is a divine struggle taking place on your behalf, and heaven itself is leaning into your story with purpose and unwavering attention. You may not hear the clash of that invisible battle, and you may not see the unfolding of its victory, but absence of sight has never meant absence of action. The greatest movements of grace often happen in stillness, in the unseen chambers of the soul where hope is rebuilt piece by piece. There is a quiet but unstoppable force pressing against the darkness that has tried to convince you that your pain is permanent. What you have interpreted as delay has often been preparation, and what you have named abandonment has often been protection. The heavens are not indifferent to your wounds, nor are they careless about the tears you have shed in moments when no one else could hear you. There is something sacred about the way healing begins, for it rarely announces itself with thunder. It arrives like the earliest light of dawn, gentle yet determined, touching the horizon long before the sun reveals its full brilliance. You may be standing in a season where your strength feels fractured, where memories of disappointment attempt to write the final chapter of your story. But your story has never belonged to disappointment. It belongs to a greater author who writes redemption into places that appear irreparable. The pages you believed were ruined are being rewritten with mercy that does not consult your past before deciding your future. The heart often learns its deepest truths through suffering, though suffering itself is never the destination. It is merely the valley through which strength travels on its way to transformation. Every moment that has tested your endurance has also expanded your capacity to carry joy when it arrives. You are not being shaped by hardship for the sake of hardship. You are being shaped for triumph that would not have fit within the person you once were. The storms that have circled your life have not come to drown you, but to teach you that you are anchored to something far deeper than fear. There have been nights when your prayers felt as though they returned to you unanswered, drifting back into your chest like echoes without response. Yet prayer has never been measured by immediate results. Prayer is the language of trust, spoken even when certainty is absent. Every whispered plea, every silent cry, every desperate moment when you searched for hope in the dark has been gathered with care. Nothing you have spoken in sincerity has been wasted. The heavens listen differently than the world listens, for they hear the ache beneath your words, the longing beneath your silence, and the courage hidden within your trembling faith. You may feel that your wounds define you, that the scars upon your heart have become permanent marks of defeat. But scars are not symbols of loss, they are testimonies of survival. They are evidence that the story continued even when everything suggested it would end. There is a sacred transformation happening within those very scars, turning them into places where light will one day shine through with unexpected beauty. Healing is not the erasing of your story, it is the restoration of its meaning. There are forces that seek to convince you that your journey is accidental, that your struggles are random and without purpose. Yet nothing about your existence is accidental. Your life is woven into a narrative far greater than your immediate circumstances. The battles you face are not signs of abandonment, but evidence of significance. The fiercest opposition often rises where the greatest destiny quietly waits to be revealed. You are not overlooked in your pain. You are being refined within it. There is a sacred patience at work in your life, a patience that does not rush because it understands the value of timing. You may want immediate relief, instant answers, sudden breakthroughs, and such desires are deeply human. Yet there is wisdom in the way healing unfolds gradually, teaching your soul to recognize strength that does not depend upon circumstances. True triumph is not merely escaping hardship, it is discovering peace that remains. Even when hardship attempts to return, Your heart has carried burdens that were never meant to remain upon your shoulders forever. There is a divine exchange taking place, though it may not yet be visible to your eyes. What you have carried in sorrow is being transformed into endurance. What you have carried in fear is being reshaped into courage. And what you have carried in despair is slowly becoming a testimony of restoration that will one day speak louder than your pain ever did. There is a profound mystery in the way heaven fights for those who feel least deserving of rescue. It is not your perfection that invites intervention, but your humanity. You are not loved because you have succeeded in every moment. You are loved because love itself refuses to abandon what it has created. The grace moving toward you is not conditional upon your strength. It arrives precisely because your strength has reached its limits. There have been voices that told you to give up, to accept defeat as your permanent companion, to believe that your best days belong to the past. Yet those voices have never carried authority over your destiny. There is another voice, quieter, but infinitely more powerful, speaking over your life even now. It speaks in whispers of renewal, in promises that refuse to dissolve despite the evidence of hardship. It reminds you that endings are often disguised beginnings, and what feels like closure may actually be the doorway into restoration you never imagined possible. You are stepping into a season where healing will not merely visit your life, but begin to settle within it. This healing will reach places you have hidden, even from yourself, touching memory. You thought were too fragile to revisit. It will not rush you or force you to pretend that pain never existed. Instead, it will walk with you through every shadow, illuminating each corner of your heart with gentleness and unwavering patience. Triumph is not always loud. It does not always arrive with applause or visible celebration. Sometimes triumph is simply waking up with hope, where despair once lived. Sometimes it is discovering that the weight you carried yesterday no longer feels as heavy today. Sometimes it is the quiet realization that you are still standing, still believing, still breathing with purpose even after storms attempted to silence your story. You are not alone in this moment, even if loneliness has convinced you otherwise. There are unseen forces aligning circumstances in ways you cannot yet recognize. There are pathways being cleared that you have not yet walked. There are answers forming long before your questions reach their final shape. The unseen realm is often more active than the visible one, and the battles being fought on your behalf are shaping victories that will one day unfold before your eyes with undeniable clarity. There is a sacred resilience being formed within you, stronger than the obstacles that once seemed immovable. Every tear has watered the soil of your transformation. Every disappointment has carved space for a deeper understanding of grace. And every moment you considered surrender has actually strengthened the roots of your endurance. You are becoming someone who carries hope, not because life has been easy, but because you have discovered that hope survives even in the harshest seasons. The season approaching your life is not defined by what you have lost, but by what is being restored. Restoration rarely returns things in their original form. It returns them with greater depth, greater strength, and greater purpose than before. What you thought was taken from you may reappear in ways you never expected, carrying blessings that could not have existed without the journey you have walked. There is a divine persistence refusing to release your story into defeat. Even when you have doubted your own worth, heaven has not doubted your future. Even when you have questioned whether you could continue, there has been a sustaining strength moving quietly beneath your weakness, holding you together when you believed you were falling apart. You have survived moments that once convinced you survival was impossible, and that survival is not accidental. It is evidence of a greater protection surrounding your life. You are standing on the threshold of transformation, though it may feel like you are still wandering through uncertainty. Transformation often disguises itself as confusion before it reveals itself as clarity. You may not recognize the changes happening within you, but your endurance is growing, your faith is deepening, and your heart is learning to recognize hope even in unfamiliar territory. The story unfolding within your life is not written in haste. It is written with deliberate care, with attention to details that may seem insignificant, but carry eternal significance. Every moment of waiting is shaping your capacity to receive what is coming. Every unanswered question is deepening your ability to recognize truth when it arrives. You are not being forgotten in your waiting. You are being prepared within it. There is a sacred victory approaching your life that will not simply remove your pain, but will redefine it, turning your wounds into wisdom and your struggles into strength that reaches beyond your own story and touches the lives of others who are walking through darkness. Your healing will not only restore you, it will become a beacon for those who have lost sight of hope. A reminder that light continues to exist even when shadows attempt to convince the world otherwise. And even now, as you stand between what has been and what is still forming, there is a gentle but unyielding assurance moving through your story, whispering that your season of healing is not a distant promise, but an approaching reality. That triumph is not reserved for others, but is quietly preparing to step into the very places where you once believed only sorrow could survive, and that the unseen hands shaping your journey have never paused, never withdrawn, and never ceased their work within the fragile, beautiful, and unfolding chapters of your life. There are hidden intersections in your journey where pain and purpose have quietly met, where the very experiences you wished to erase have been transforming into bridges toward a future you have not yet fully imagined. You may look back and see fragments of moments that felt meaningless, conversations that ended too abruptly, opportunities that slipped through your hands, and seasons that seemed to close before they even had the chance to bloom. Yet beneath what appeared scattered and broken, there has been a deliberate weaving taking place, a careful gathering of threads that will one day form a tapestry so intricate and radiant that you will struggle to recognize the chaos from which it emerged. Your heart has learned languages that comfort could never teach. It has learned the language of endurance, spoken fluently in silence when words felt too fragile to hold the depth of your struggle. It has learned the language of surrender, not as defeat, but as a sacred trust that something greater can carry what you no longer can. And it has learned the language of hope, whispered in moments when despair attempted to silence your belief that better days were still possible. These languages have been forming within you not as accidental survival tools, but as preparations for the role you will play in bringing light into places where others have lost their way. There is a quiet unfolding of restoration that does not merely aim to return what was lost, but to reveal what was hidden beneath the surface of your identity all along. You have not only been walking through hardship, you have been walking toward discovery. Within the fractures of your disappointment, there have been reflections of strength you never knew you possessed. Within the echoes of your loneliness, there have been invitations to encounter a companionship that cannot be shaken by circumstances or distance. And within the heaviness of your waiting, there has been a slow but certain reshaping of your spirit into something resilient and luminous. You may wonder why healing often takes the long road, why it chooses pathways that seem winding and uncertain, rather than direct and immediate. Yet healing is not interested in merely removing pain. It is deeply invested in restoring wholeness. It seeks not only to close wounds, but to strengthen the very places where those wounds once lived. Quick relief can sometimes hide fragile foundations, but gradual healing builds endurance that does not collapse when new storms attempt to rise. The pace that feels frustrating to your mind is often the very pace that allows your soul to become unshakable. There have been seasons when you questioned your own worth, when failures felt louder than your victories, and regrets lingered like shadows refusing to fade. But regret has never been given authority over your future. The mistakes you carry are not permanent verdicts. They are chapters that have already served their purpose in shaping the wisdom you now hold. The story of your life is not defined by where you stumbled, but by how you continued walking even when your steps felt uncertain. There is dignity in perseverance that triumph alone could never teach. The battles surrounding your life have not only tested your strength, they have revealed the presence of strength that existed long before the battles began. You have endured days when exhaustion felt like your only companion, when your spirit felt stretched beyond what you believed you could carry. Yet within that exhaustion, there has been a quiet reinforcement taking place. strengthening the foundation of your faith in ways that comfort alone could never accomplish. You are not merely surviving these seasons, you are being fortified by them. There is a sacred transformation unfolding in the way you see yourself. The reflection you once viewed through the lens of doubt is slowly being replaced by a vision shaped by grace. You are beginning to recognize that your value has never been measured by your achievement, your productivity, or the approval of others. Value has always been anchored in something far deeper, something unchanging and unwavering. The healing approaching your life is not only mending your past, it is restoring your perception of your own identity. There are moments ahead when you will look back and realize that what felt like delays were actually divine alignments taking place beyond your understanding. Paths that seemed blocked were protecting you from destinations that would have diminished your purpose. Doors that closed without explanation were redirecting you toward opportunities that required patience before they could fully unfold. The redirections you once resisted will one day become the very reasons you find yourself standing in places you never imagined you could reach. The season of triumph approaching your life is not rooted in sudden perfection or the absence of struggle. It is rooted in a quiet but profound confidence that emerges when you recognize that you are carried by something stronger than your fears. Triumph will reveal itself in your ability to stand firm when circumstances shift, in your ability to speak hope when others expect despair, and in your ability to continue moving forward with a heart that has learned to trust beyond what it can see. You are not being asked to understand every step of your journey. You are being invited to trust that every step holds meaning, even when clarity feels distant. There is wisdom growing within your uncertainty, teaching you to recognize guidance not through constant explanation, but through steady assurance. The absence of immediate answers does not mean the absence of direction. Often, the most sacred guidance arrives through quiet conviction rather than visible certainty. Your life carries a resonance that reaches beyond your personal experience. The healing that enters your story will not remain contained within your own heart. It will ripple outward, touching lives you may never fully realize you have influenced. The strength you gain through your trials will become a source of encouragement for others standing in their own valleys of uncertainty. Your testimony will speak in ways that words alone cannot, carrying authenticity that only lived experience can provide. There is a sacred unfolding of joy preparing to meet you, though it may not resemble the expectations you once held. True joy often arrives quietly, settling into your spirit with a depth that does not depend upon circumstances remaining perfect. It is a joy that coexists with memory, one that acknowledges the journey you have walked while refusing to be overshadowed by it. This joy will not erase your past, it will illuminate it, revealing how every step contributed to the person you have become. You have carried questions that seemed too heavy to ask aloud, fears that felt too vulnerable to share, and dreams that felt too fragile to protect. Yet none of these have been ignored. There is a patient listening that has gathered every unspoken concern, every hidden longing, and every silent hope. The responses to those hidden prayers are forming in ways you may not yet recognize, shaping circumstances that will one day align with precision that leaves no doubt about their divine origin. There is a sacred resilience rising within your spirit, one that does not depend upon your ability to remain strong at every moment. This resilience understands that vulnerability is not weakness, but openness to transformation. The tears you have shed have not weakened you. They have softened the ground of your heart, allowing compassion, understanding, and wisdom to grow in ways that would have been impossible in hardened soil. The triumph approaching your life will not merely celebrate your arrival at a destination. It will honor the journey that carried you there. It will acknowledge the nights when hope felt distant, the days when perseverance felt exhausting, and the moments when you continued believing even when belief felt fragile. Your victory will carry the echoes of every step you took when surrender would have been easier. You are being guided toward a horizon that holds restoration, not only for what you have lost, but for what you believed was never possible to gain. There are dreams that quietly dissolved under the weight of disappointment, aspirations that faded because they seemed unreachable. Yet there are new dreams forming, shaped by the wisdom you have gained and strengthened by the endurance you have developed. These dreams will carry depth and clarity that your earlier visions could not hold. There is a sacred companionship surrounding your journey, even when solitude has attempted to convince you otherwise. You are accompanied by a presence that does not withdraw when you feel uncertain, that does not retreat when you question your own strength. This presence remains constant, guiding you through transitions, steadying you through confusion, and anchoring you through storms that attempt to disrupt your peace. The healing entering your life will reach places that have long been guarded by fear and hesitation. It will not force open those places, but will gently invite them into the light, allowing restoration to occur without pressure or urgency. Healing honors your pace, respects your memories, and walks beside you with patience that never grows weary. It understands that true restoration cannot be rushed, for it seeks not only to mend but to strengthen. There is a profound transformation happening in the way you will one day view your struggles. What once felt like evidence of abandonment will become proof of guidance. What once appeared as brokenness will reveal itself as refinement. And what once seemed like endings will stand as beginnings that shape the most meaningful chapters of your life. You are moving toward a revelation of purpose that will reframe every moment of hardship with clarity that feels both surprising and deeply reassuring. You are stepping into a season where the quiet battles fought within your heart will begin to produce visible victories around your life. These victories will not always appear dramatic or sudden. Sometimes they will appear in subtle shifts, in renewed confidence, in unexpected opportunities, and in peace that arrives without explanation. Yet each of these moments will carry the unmistakable signature of restoration, reminding you that the unseen struggles you endured were never without purpose. And as this sacred unfolding continues, there remains a steady and unwavering movement surrounding your life, guiding your steps even when the path feels uncertain, strengthening your spirit when exhaustion attempts to take hold, and preparing moments of breakthrough that will arrive not as distant miracles, but as deeply personal encounters with grace that has been walking beside you through every shadow, every silence, every unanswered question, and every fragile yet courageous step you have taken toward a future that is still rising to meet you. There are layers within your journey that you have only begun to touch, depths of transformation quietly unfolding beneath the surface of your daily life. You may still feel the echoes of old fears, the familiar weight of memories that attempt to remind you of moments when hope felt unreachable. Yet those echoes are growing softer, not because your past is being erased, but because something stronger is beginning to speak over it. There is a voice of renewal steadily rising, a voice that reminds your spirit that your life is not confined to what you have endured, but is expanding toward what you are becoming. There have been times when you measured your progress by visible change and found yourself discouraged when circumstances remained unchanged. But there is an invisible progress that often carries the most profound transformation. It is the progress that takes place in the way you respond to difficulty, in the way your heart recovers more quickly from disappointment, and in the way your spirit begins to recognize peace even when uncertainty lingers. These quiet victories may seem small, but they are evidence that healing has already begun its sacred work within you. Your story carries chapters that were written in tears, sentences formed through sleepless nights, and paragraphs shaped by moments when you felt you had no strength left to continue. Yet those chapters are not isolated fragments. Sorrow. They are essential passages that lead toward a revelation of endurance and grace that will one day speak louder than the pain that inspired them. The very places where your heart once felt shattered are becoming foundations, where wisdom is quietly being built, strong enough to support the triumph that is drawing closer to your life. You may still wrestle with questions that do not seem to have answers, wondering why certain doors closed without warning, why certain relationships faded into silence, or why certain dreams dissolved before they had the chance to take root. Yet there is a sacred redirection that often hides behind disappointment. The doors that closed were not merely endings, they were guardians preventing you from entering spaces that would have restricted your growth. The relationships that faded created room for connections that will recognize and honor the person you are becoming. The dreams that dissolved were making space for visions that align more deeply with the purpose quietly unfolding within your spirit. There is a transformation happening in your understanding of strength. You once believed strength meant never breaking, never doubting, never needing help. But true strength has revealed itself through your willingness to continue even when you felt fragile, through your ability to hope when certainty felt distant, and through your courage to stand again after moments when you thought you would never rise. Strength is not the absence of vulnerability. It is the courage to carry vulnerability without allowing it to define your destiny. The healing approaching your life carries a gentleness that does not force you to forget what you have experienced. Instead, it teaches you how to remember without reliving the pain with the same intensity. It allows your memories to become testimonies rather than burdens. It teaches your heart to honor the journey you have walked without allowing that journey to imprison your future. Healing does not erase your past. It liberates you from being controlled by it. There have been seasons when you felt as though you were standing in stillness, unable to move forward, unable to return to where you once stood. Yet stillness has never meant stagnation. Within stillness, there is often the most profound preparation taking place. Roots grow deeper when branches appear motionless. Foundations strengthen when visible structures remain unchanged. The stillness you once feared has been nurturing the depth required for the growth that is soon to become visible. You are entering a season where clarity will begin to replace confusion in ways that feel both surprising and deeply reassuring. Moments that once felt disconnected will begin to reveal their hidden connection. Events that seemed random will reveal themselves as precise alignments guiding you toward the life that has been forming around you all along. The realization that nothing was wasted will begin to settle into your heart with a peace that surpasses explanation. There is a sacred courage forming within you, one that does not demand the absence of fear, but teaches you to walk forward despite it. Fear has often attempted to convince you that your future holds the same disappointments as your past. But fear speaks from memory, not from truth. The truth is that your future is being shaped by restoration, by opportunities that could not have existed without the journey you have already walked. The courage rising within you is not reckless, it is deeply rooted in the quiet assurance that you are being guided, even when you cannot see the entire path ahead. Your life is surrounded by moments of unseen intervention, subtle shifts in circumstances that you may have overlooked because they arrived without dramatic announcement. The protection that has surrounded you has often appeared as closed paths, delayed answers, or unexpected changes in direction. Yet those very moments were expressions of care, guiding you away from outcomes that would have diminished your purpose and toward opportunities that required patience before they could safely unfold. There is a sacred unfolding of identity happening within your spirit. You are learning to see yourself not through the lens of your mistakes or the opinions of others, but through the lens of grace that recognizes your inherent worth. This transformation in identity will influence every area of your life, shaping the way you pursue dreams, the way you form relationships, and the way you stand in moments of uncertainty. When you recognize your value, you begin to walk with a confidence that does not depend upon external validation. The triumph approaching your life will carry a quiet majesty that reveals itself gradually. It will appear in the restoration of relationships that were once fractured, in opportunities that align with your gifts in ways you never anticipated, and in a peace that remains steady even when challenges attempt to rise again. Triumph will not remove every obstacle from your path, but it will reveal a strength within you that walks through obstacles without losing hope or direction. You have endured seasons where loneliness felt like an uninvited companion, where the absence of understanding from others made your journey feel heavier than it already was. Yet even within loneliness, there has been a companionship that never withdrew. You have been sustained by a presence that listens without judgment, supports without condition, and remains constant when human understanding feels distant. That presence has walked beside you through every silent struggle, carrying you through moments when you believed you were carrying everything alone. There is a sacred renewal approaching your dreams, breathing life into aspirations you once believed were too distant to pursue. These renewed dreams will not be identical to the ones you once held. They will carry deeper meaning, stronger purpose, and clearer direction. They will be shaped not only by your desires, but by the wisdom you have gained through endurance. You will begin to recognize that some dreams required delay not because they were impossible, but because you needed to become someone capable of carrying them without losing yourself along the way. You are moving toward a season where gratitude will begin to replace regret. You will look back on moments you once wished had never happened and recognize how they contributed to your resilience, your compassion, and your clarity. Gratitude will not deny the pain you experienced, but it will reveal how that pain became part of a larger transformation, shaping your destiny in ways you could not have understood while you were still walking through it. There is a sacred harmony forming between your heart and your purpose, aligning your passions with opportunities that allow your gifts to flourish. You will find yourself drawn toward paths that feel both unfamiliar and deeply natural at the same time, as though you are stepping into spaces that were always meant for you but required patience before they could be revealed. This harmony will guide your decisions with a quiet confidence, allowing you to move forward without the constant weight of uncertainty that once overshadowed your choices. The healing entering your life will reach generational echoes, restoring patterns that extended beyond your personal experience. The strength you gain will influence not only your own future, but the lives connected to yours, creating ripples of restoration that extend further than you may ever fully realize. Your triumph will become part of a larger narrative of renewal, demonstrating that healing has the power to transform entire legacies. There is a sacred unfolding of trust growing within you, teaching you to rest in the assurance that you are not required to carry the entire weight of your future alone. Trust allows you to release the constant need to control every outcome, creating space for guidance that arrives through intuition, opportunity, and quiet conviction. This trust does not remove responsibility from your journey, but it transforms responsibility into partnership, allowing you to walk forward with confidence rather than fear. You are stepping into moments where your voice will carry influence shaped by authenticity and compassion. The wisdom you have gained through your struggles will allow you to speak into the lives of others with understanding that cannot be learned through comfort alone. Your words will carry healing because they will rise from experience, offering hope that feels genuine and attainable to those who hear them. There is a sacred unveiling approaching your life, revealing layers of purpose that have remained hidden until this moment. You will begin to recognize talents you once overlooked, strengths you once underestimated, and opportunities that align perfectly with the person you have become through endurance and faith. This unveiling will not overwhelm you with sudden responsibility, but will guide you step by step, allowing your confidence to grow alongside your calling. And as this unfolding continues, there remains a steady and unbreakable assurance surrounding your life, guiding your heart through every transition, strengthening your spirit through every challenge, and preparing moments of revelation that will illuminate your journey with clarity that feels both humbling and empowering, reminding you that every shadow you have walked through has been part of a greater movement of grace. Every tear has been part of a sacred preparation, and every fragile yet determined step you have taken has been leading you toward a future that continues to rise before you with promise, restoration, and a triumph that is still gathering its fullness just beyond the horizon of what you can presently see. And so, as you stand at the edge of this unfolding chapter, remember that your story has never been defined by the storms you have faced, but by the grace that carried you through them. Every tear you shed was seen, every silent prayer was heard, and every moment you believed you were losing ground was, in truth, a step towards sacred restoration. The battles that once threatened to break you have instead revealed a strength within you that cannot be silenced, and the healing now rising in your life is not temporary relief, but a lasting transformation of your heart, your purpose, and your destiny. You are walking into a season where hope will no longer feel distant where peace will no longer feel fragile, and where triumph will no longer feel reserved for others. The same hands that held you together in your weakest moments are now guiding you into wholeness, into clarity, and into a future that carries more beauty than your past carried pain. Heaven has never withdrawn from your story, not for a single moment, and the victory unfolding before you is proof that love has always been fighting for you, restoring you, and leading you toward a life where healing is not just a promise, but your living reality.